Hello and welcome to the Shippensburg Area School District Committee of the Whole, and we are going to open it up to Site Logic.
Good evening.
Evening.
All right, so I'm here tonight to present the actual bid results for the middle school, high school project. I don't have it. Okay. No. Do you have the presentation, Bill, that I sent?
Should be attached.
Oh, there it is. If you want to go to the next page. Next one. Okay, like I said, this is the public bid results, and if you recall last time we had a base bid and then some alternates so that the board could decide what they would like to do moving forward. So the base bid was the work at the high school, and that included the music classroom and music lab, the family consumer science and the nursery room, the STEM robotics lab and tech classroom, 2 flex conference rooms, a secured front entrance, concession cafe in the high school lobby, also the high school realignment of the road, and the sidewalks that the borough required was moved into the base bid. So originally the budget was about 6.2 million. Our construction document estimate that I presented in August was about 6,256,000. The base bid came in from the low responsible bidder at $4,599,938. So again, just giving you a reminder of the renderings for the high school, of what that included. So again, this is the family consumer science cooking lab. This is the nursery. This is the high school music room, the high school STEM room, and the cafeteria extension. Again, all of that is under the base bid. And then the first alternate was for the middle school music room addition. That included the band room, a little bit of work in your administration office, and also included a little bump out site work on the outside. So the original budget for that was $1,075,486. The CD estimate presented in August was $1,588,000, and that bid actually came in at $902,392. Again, this is just the middle school addition and a rendering of the inside of the middle school band room. Alternate number 2 was the middle school, high school site, the parent loop, and some additional parking and the alignment of the parent entrance across at the high school. Original budget was $2,761,200. The construction document estimate presented in August was $2,385,000, and the bid amount came in at $1,252,110 for the middle school, high school loop. Again, this is just a rendering. Everything, this is, I know, hard to see, but everything that was covered in the yellow is in the base or in the parent loop. Again, sidewalks that the borough was requiring for land development was put in the base bid because they would have to be done no matter what the district chose to do. Alternate number 3 was some lighting at the middle school, high school based on a grant that was received from the district. Based on the survey, there was $125,000 set aside for the grant. Based on the surveys our engineer did and the work that they included on the documents, the bid for the additional lighting came in at $37,665. We also included a couple alternates for some electrical panel boards that are in your high school that are very old and do not have very much capacity for any upgrading or any extra spares that might be needed. So these are 2 alternates. 5 and 6 are to replace some of those electrical panels. You do not have to take this, but we wanted to get you a price so in case you did have good bid results and you did want to upgrade some of these electrical panels, this would be the time to do it. So again, alternate number 5 are some electrical panels that are down by the mechanical room. That came in to replace those at $43,150. Alternate number 6 are some panel boards that are located by the biology room. That came in at $39,480. Again, neither of them have to be done. It is the district's choice if you'd like to do it. Neither project or the alternates depend on doing it, but it would give you more capacity in the future if you ever needed more electrical power and some spare breakers. And then alternate number 7 is just to change the equipment manufacturer from the design-based manufacturer to a different manufacturer if the district chose, and that would be a $14,000 add to the district if they went with the alternate manufacturer. So just to summarize, this again shows you the total budget where we originally were at $10,187,711. The CD estimate based on some adds and credits that were discussed in August came to $10,354,000. Base bid just for the high school work that was presented, again, $4,599,938. If you add in all of the alternates, it comes to a total of $6,888,735. However, you did have a $450,000 grant for the parent loop, so that amount would come off of that bottom line, and we would also take the grant money for the lighting out of that bottom line as well. So the bids came in very favorable. They were very good, tight bids. So that tells us that the documents are pretty good. Everyone pretty much saw the same thing. So any questions?
Yeah, does the furniture included everything, them rooms, are they gonna be completely furnished, the STEM room with everything in it needs to be, or is that gonna be an extra cost?
The furniture is in your soft costs. So it is accounted for in your overall budget. I
Everything,
believe almost $1 million worth of furniture was included cost-wise.
everything in the STEM room and what have you is all included?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they need to put in there.
Yes, and like I said, there's about almost $1 million set aside for furniture.
Furniture, but not like equipment.
Technology.
Well, no, there's a line item for technology as well. Yeah, in the soft costs. Yep.
The initial bid, what did we bid on? What did you bid on the 10 million or the 6 million or
We did not bid on anything.
What
We
did
put
we-
it out to contractors
what did we pay you for?
to bid.
On at which one? At the 10 million? At the
You didn't pay me for any of that. That's some financing that you guys are doing. Yeah, we're just your construction managers. So we did not bid on the project. We put it out to contractors to bid. We gave you an estimate
Yes.
at different stages, which is what I went over. And then the last number I presented were what the bids actually came in at. That's what you would actually be paying.
to the contractor, but don't we pay you off of that?
Rochelle, I think the question is, you say Logic's fee is going to be, if these projects move forward, it's going to be based on the 6 number?
No, our fee is a fixed amount.
Okay.
Ours is off of a number of hours because we have a site guy here 40 hours a week for X amount of weeks. Whether you do the base bid or whether you do all the bids, our fee's the same because
So
we're
you-
already here.
So your fees are hourly, not.
It's a fixed fee, a contract that you guys already have. We had so much in it for pre-construction, doing the estimates, coming to meetings. There is now another line item for construction that is based on X amount of months at so many dollars per month gets to our fee. We're not off of percentage.
Your what again, please? What'd you say?
So we're not off of a percentage. We're off of a fixed number. And that is also included already in your soft costs.
What's our soft cost?
Soft costs are a percentage on top of, and I presented that last time. I believe I gave you a breakdown of what's in the soft costs. It'd be like the CM fee, the architect's fee, the fees the borough's been paying, contingency money, building permit costs are in there. There's a whole list I had presented before of what makes up the soft costs.
What was the total? You don't remember the total cost?
At that time, it was like 5.4 million. However, that included some money for your elementary school. The contingency number will come down now because the price came in lower. The contingency is based off a percentage of what the construction amount is, so the soft cost number will go down. So if you don't use all of your soft cost number, that's just money that goes back into your pot. Soft costs are really basically an estimate, because you never know at the beginning when you're establishing the soft costs what they're actually going to cost you. So it's right now an estimate, and what we track that with Christy and Joanne, so that we see where we're spending the soft costs, and when we're done with a line item, if there's money left over, that goes back into your pot.
The parent loop, that's a contingency, so we don't have to do that right now, right?
The parent loop is not contingency, it was an alternate.
Alternate, rather.
It was originally in your one borrowing. Whether you choose to do it is up to the board. That's why we broke it out as an alternate.
I know we borrowed money for the loop the first time around at the junior high, and they used the money from the loop to support the junior high, and we probably $1.9 million short, correct? I don't know if you had anything to do with that, but your company did.
Yeah, that was before I got here, but there was money used for the middle school. There's still money left over, actually, from that borrowing that actually can support your parent loop right now out of your original borrowing, but your financial company here will talk about that. But yeah, some of that money that was originally for the parent loop was used on the middle school because those numbers did come in higher at that time.
Higher than a bid? Well, I'm trying to figure.
Higher than the estimates that were presented, and the bids came in higher than the estimates for the middle school at that time.
They did.
Yes, and that was all presented to you guys a couple times.
Did presented that was higher? Then we should have known we're going to be 1.9 million over.
You would have known, yes. You would have not awarded bids without knowing.
I don't remember it.
I'm not disputing you because you weren't here, so I mean, it was a cluster.
No, I think I went, and I'd be happy to go over it with you again. But
No.
I did have presented that, and I can send you the previous presentations where that is presented.
We were in 1.9 over. Would you please?
Sure.
I don't remember that. I don't want, when you get a chance, no problem. But that's one of my apprehensions about doing this loop. We may need money extra, so.
You have a hard number now, so if you choose to do the loop, you will pay the contractor the amount that was for the bid to do the loop. And right now, I believe that total cost is $1,252,110. So that is what you'll pay for the parent loop.
Okay.
And then if you have an unforeseen condition, that's where the contingency that's included in the soft cost would come in. That's to cover some, any unforeseen conditions, any owner requests, any design-related issues. That would come out of contingency. But you actually have hard bids now. These are the numbers the contracts would be written for to each individual contractor if you guys decided to do the parent loop or the base bid or the middle school. These are hard numbers. They are not estimates anymore. These are real numbers.
Okay. Would you send me that information? Because I don't remember, and I don't remember everybody, because the question came up, where the 1.9 million, and everybody said, well, you went over it, company went over it, so it won't happen again. I don't remember that. Would you? I'd appreciate if you sent that to me.
Yeah, no, I can send that. And like I said, these bids compared to the estimates came in $3.4 million under the estimates.
But who makes the estimates?
SiteLogic makes the estimates based on the drawings that we have.
What you think is going to be, but they came under what you thought it was.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
In regards to the additional sidewalk, is that being mandated by the borough, and is it in conjunction with the stadium, or is it because of additions to the high school?
So it's my understanding that the sidewalks were a requirement of the borough as to get the land development plan that encompasses your high school, middle school. I believe that land development includes the stadium and a future maintenance building. So it's kind of encompassing your whole campus. I believe the sidewalks are more geared toward the stadium, but they are a requirement of the land development that we were seeking for the middle school, high school as a requirement to get their approval. And that's why last time when we talked about, the board decided to put that into the base bid, because no matter what you chose, whether you did the base bid, the alternates, everything, those sidewalks were going to have to go in, because that's the only way you're getting land development approval from the borough.
That's a requirement regardless of what we do.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you answer the question as to why what versus what was estimated and the actual cost was so great? Like, we love a cost savings, but how that estimate is so great.
Our estimates don't represent your low bid, because we can't predict what a low contractor is going to do. It's supposed to represent the average bid. And then in today's market, I can tell you that we have not seen bid results like this. They are getting better. Prices are now steady. They're not coming down to where they were before COVID. They are just now steady. So this is the greatest difference we have seen. Usually for the past 3 years, we've been getting crushed because they've been over our estimates. So I'm excited that they're below our estimate. But
Like,
I
love this for
understand.
us.
Yeah, no, I understand. But it's just how we saw the drawings, what we use as our indicator in the market, what we were seeing on other projects we use as a guide. And this project, you guys bid it at a great time, because the summer projects are now done for the contractors. They have not geared up yet for next summer. So a lot of these contractors like to keep their workers working through the winter. And some of them will bid it just to keep their workers working. So I can't, tell you exactly why, but I'm thinking timing through the winter, keep them working, and numbers are getting tighter now with contractors. You had a nice turnout of bidders, and I just think they're sharpening their pencil again, kind of getting back to where we were pre-COVID.
Thank you.
With that big a difference, do you know, are they bidding exactly what you were estimating? Or did they forget something and they're going to come back and say, y'all, you owe us another $800,000?
They are bound by the drawings and specs that they bid to. So that is what they're bound to. So if it's in that on those drawings and in those specs, they are required per their contract once signed to provide what is on there. If they miss something and it's in those documents, they have to provide it.
I mean, even yourself, to me, I would be questioning that. I'd be going back to, why is it so? Did we miss something? Did they miss something?
Well, because it's a public bid, you don't have that opportunity to sit down. Like when we do our GISA projects, like we're doing at the high school, we do that. We do a page turn with our contractors after they give us the number to make sure, like, do you have this? Do you have that? Public bid, it is the low responsible bidder. And then we have to use the avenues in the contract in order to enforce that contract. But in how we see something being built, might not see how, they might do it differently and have different means and methods. So that could, lead to some of the things.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. All right, next up we have PFM.
Great to be in front of you this evening. My name is Melissa Hughes and I'm from PFM. See some familiar faces. I'm going to talk about this handout, which you have in front of you. We always like to have printouts for hard to read numbers. I'm going to give an overall update that's going to tie to some of the things that Rochelle talked about and give you a sense on, where we might go from here and what a timeline might look like from a financing perspective. So first, on page number 2, the interest rate environment. As I'm sure you've all heard, the Federal Reserve reduced short-term interest rates by 0.5% at their meeting last Wednesday. That decrease was widely anticipated by the bond market, so by the market that you borrow in. And so since then, our market has been steady because they expected that, okay? It's still all good news. you can borrow at about 4% on a tax-exempt basis, so far below what you could get a mortgage at. And as you can see in the bottom part of the graph, rates have been actually quite steady over the last, couple months here, month and a half or so. Page number 3 is the district's existing debt portfolio. This is what it looks like if the district borrows no more money for any projects. The top half of the page is gross debt service, meaning principal and interest that you owe to bondholders. The bottom half of the page is net of a little bit of state reimbursement that you get on your series of 2017 and series of 2020 notes. On the bottom of the page, you'll notice the line called call date. So those are the first opportunities that the district has to refinance, to save money, or to pay off debt. And so as the district's independent financial advisor, we're always monitoring for opportunities to save money through refinancing. Your next opportunity will come about in 2027, so we'll be in front of you if and when that makes sense. Page number 4 has a lot of numbers on here. I'm going to direct your attention to a few of the numbers. This is a sample draw schedule that Rochelle helped us develop, some of the numbers, and this corresponds to the projects that you either already have underway, the GISA projects that you've already agreed to for summer 2024 and summer 2025, the bids that SiteLogic is here tonight talking about, including those soft costs, and a high school athletics project totaling roughly $1.1 million, which you can see in column 5. So in total, this has uses or total projects of about $23.6 million, give or take a few. In column 13, this is how we're figuring out how much money to borrow and when. You can see the little amount of bond proceeds starting at the top of the page that we have left over from the 2022 bonds, about $405,000. I'm in column 13 here. Then you can see the 2023 bond proceeds that we borrowed and the 2024 bond proceeds. Both of those were bank qualified borrowings, so $10 million or less. So you see an amount just less than $10 million. And then you can see an estimated 2025 borrowing of $2.5 million. Because you're earning a lot of money on your short-term investments, you're also generating interest earnings in your construction fund. And so those interest earnings are monies that we don't have to borrow. So that's what we're illustrating in column 14. That's a pretty conservative estimate, but it's a good number for this purposes. And then in column 15, you can see the $450,000 grant that Rochelle referenced earlier. So those are our total sources of funds. So all of the sources of monies that we're going to look at today. I'm going to go forward to page 5, and then I'll take questions on both of those pages. Page 5 should look a little bit familiar. This is this same colored chart that we've been looking at since 2022. So in the blue, that's the 2022 borrowing. And the way we're thinking about that was for a different kind of phase of projects. So except for the $405,000 of leftover bond proceeds, which we illustrated on the previous page, we're kind of setting that aside. These next phases of projects are in the red, the green, and the orange. So the red and the green we already did. Those are monies that the district has already borrowed. So if you look at column 14, you can see what it would look like if you did no additional borrowing. So you'd be at a run rate of about $2.3 million in terms of what you pay in debt service. We're illustrating here that the district could consider a $2.5 million borrowing in 2025, and that borrowing would have 2 or potentially 3 purposes. first purpose would be to borrow the existing amount of money or the remaining amount of money you need to finish off these projects that you're talking about here. Second, I understand from talking to folks in the business office, you're still making some decisions and having some change orders come in on your kind of stadium athletics project. So you could figure out how much you might be doing in terms of change orders or add-ons in terms of lighting there. And we could include that. And finally, it gets you a little bit of seed money to start on a potential elementary school project design if you felt like you were far enough along. We're illustrating it in this way because you can see then in the purple, we're illustrating an elementary school project of, in total, $10.8 million. So $800,000 out of the 2025 borrowing and the remainder out of a future borrowing, which we're illustrating here in 2026. Obviously, or not obviously, but I understand that you might not be far enough along in the elementary school decision-making process to say, yes, go ahead. But we wanted to illustrate that for this purpose so you understood kind of what your decision-making might look like and what kind of levers were available to be pulled. Okay. You'll notice that the green and the orange, those have a little bit of shorter terms because we're structuring those to assume that all of those proceeds can be used for ESCO projects that are procured under the ESCO law are term limited to 20 years. So we're being conservative in that way. We've assumed that the elementary school project, the bulk of that, can be financed over a longer term. So to the extent that you do more ESCO, that will impact these numbers. And again, the elementary is really for illustrative purposes to help you get a sense of magnitude in terms of dollars. And you could see what it would look like in column 16 if you just stopped at the $2.5 million. You'd be at a $2.5 million run rate. Very ironic, right? And in column 18, if you did the $2.5 million plus came back for an additional $10 million in 2026. Again, not saying that that's what you should do. This is an illustration for kind of a conceptual discussion. I'm going to pause and take questions there.
Melissa, I just want you to remind the board that this analysis is based on a balanced budget. That is very key when we talk about these numbers.
It is very key when we talk about these numbers. Can I actually read a couple of quotes from your most recent rating report? That would be okay? So the last time we did a borrowing, the district received an A+ credit rating from Standard & Poor's, which is excellent. And that has been the district's credit rating for a few years. I'm going to read two passages. This was written before you finalized your 2025 budget, but at a point in the year when you had a pretty good sense of what it was going to look like. While the district has not formalized its fiscal 2025 budget, projections assume a $3.5 million deficit as a result of increases in health insurance and cyber charter tuition costs, as well as the expiration of stimulus funding. That said, these projections are conservative, and we believe the district will likely outperform the budget again, albeit with softer performance. That means not closing as much of the deficit as you have in the past. In the long term, we believe reserves provide significant cushion as the district adjusts its budget to maintain balanced operations. So there, the district, the credit rating agency is recognizing 2025 budget was a little bit of a more challenging budget, but you have good fund balance to help you kind of weather those times. And they really emphasize that at the end of every credit rating report, they look at upside scenarios and downside scenarios. And so for the district's downside scenario, they noted, we could lower the rating if financial performance weakens on a prolonged basis. causing reserves to materially deteriorate without a plan to replenish them. So they're really recognizing that your reserves are what helps you through, times when the budget is a little more challenging, like coming off of the ESSER funding, was for a lot of folks, not just Shippensburg. On the next page, page number 6, this is an illustrative timeline of what it could look like if the district was ready to lock in kind of this final piece of financing for this phase of projects, we'll say. We're here having a board update tonight. The earliest you could consider discussing sample motion, you can see the sample motion up above, would be October 14th for passage at your October 28th meeting. And what that sample motion does is it authorizes the financing team to go get the paperwork in order and come back with a parameters resolution. That's the not to exceed resolution that you could discuss at your November the 12th meeting and adopt at your December the 2nd meeting. That would put you in a position to lock in rates in January of 2025 and then get money in your construction fund in February of 2025. I will note all of these dates say or later because this is the fastest you could go. We're not saying this is the timeline that you have to go on. It just gives you a sense of what the steps look like, what the order looks like, and what the timeline look like from the day that you say go. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
We've recently received some reports on student growth, and architects have done.
Mr. Noggle, could you pull your microphone a little bit closer?
Is it even on? Oh.
Yeah, it's on.
We just recently got some studies done, student growth, and architects have given us some information on building needs. And I think our building needs were somewhere between 12 and like $17 million, so say 14, $15 million. We need to be able to fund those.
Yep.
How can you help us out and talk to us a little bit? Tell us how we can do that.
Yeah, your brain is where our minds were at when we put the projection together. Trying to get you, that's kind of the point of the purple column, is to help you get a sense.
I want to make sure we understand this clearly.
Yeah, that's good. It doesn't cover your biggest project, right? We got kind of the lowest value numbers and illustrated them here. We don't want to be presumptive till you give us a little more direction on, where you might be going. But we would approach the elementary school project much like we have the last phases of project, doing as many bank qualified borrowings as made sense, right? So here we're illustrating that it would be covered in 2 borrowings as a little bit of a get started money. There's about $800,000 allocated for that in the orange. So 1/7 of it is to finish up your last project, 800,000 is to get you going on your next one. And you might come back to us and say, no, we know that we're going to do the $14 million project, and then we would update that orange column correspondingly,
Okay.
assuming that you had reasonable expectations for that money. So let's talk about what reasonable expectations means. It means that we can get professional cost estimates, that you can spend 85% of the money that you borrow on a series by series basis within 3 years of settlement. Doesn't mean you have to spend it within 3 years. It means you have reasonable expectations at the time you borrowed it. Second, within 6 months of settlement, you can enter into a substantial binding obligation to spend 5% of the amount of money that you borrow. Again, this is a series by series test. And finally, you proceed with due diligence to do the project. Another way I've heard bond counsel describe it is, tell me in 3 sentences what project you're doing.
Okay. So basically, you have 9.9 million?
We have 10.8 built into this illustration.
Which was the lowest scenario that was presented at the facilities committee meeting for an elementary project.
Okay.
And again, the numbers will go up or go down based on decisions and bids and.
And we still have fund balance, a healthy fund balance to work with.
Some, I do have that in my report to present during the regular board meeting.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we figure out a balanced budget to make this work.
We balance our budget off of the fund balance. Fund balance that's how we balance the budget, off of fund balance. There's a deficit, we take it out of fund balance.
That's correct.
Yep.
We had what, 3.5 this year? 3 points. What were we?
No, it's not going to quite be that because we got additional state money in.
Okay, so what do you think?
I think it was 2.2. I have that in my presentation as well.
Okay, well, she's here. I'll get to you later. All right. Well,
Yep.
if we can't, we're relying on tax dollars to progress and to keep going.
Yep.
And what if our tax dollars aren't there? Are we in a few years, from now to a few years? Is it advantageous to put this money out now, not knowing what the future brings?
That's a really hard question because there's always uncertainty. But I think what you're asking me is, what if we aren't able to balance our budget? Is that really the question?
We got to take out a fund balance to balance the budget. You say we need a healthy fund balance.
You do.
Eventually going to catch up, aren't they?
Yep. Yep. And that's why you need to be working together as a board with your administration to be kind of asking the questions. How do we balance the budgets? Debt's a little piece of it, right? But the lion's share of your costs are non-debt related, ideally, because you exist to serve kids, not have facilities. But you should be having those conversations with the administration. What can we be doing on the tax side? What can we be doing on the expense sides, both in terms of debt and in terms of other operating costs? And looking for balance. And S&P recognizes you're not going to probably get balanced in 1 year, right? It's a process, but they're looking for you to make improvements. And
But we've been taking money out of fund balance for years, haven't we, to balance the budget?
We've been lucky that we haven't had to pull out of fund balance most of the years I've been here.
yeah,
We've grown fund balance since I've been here.
Okay.
yeah. You usually budgeted a deficit, and then you all in the administration work together really hard to close it over time. And you've been very successful.
But that's what that $2.2 million is what we're taking out to get to that zero balance, right?
For 24-25.
Get to zero balance. I'm just so concerned about the future. I didn't like the raising the taxes last time, and they saying we may not be able to go up to do that high again.
Yep.
I'm just worried about the future. What's there? I guess you really can't answer that. So, all right.
I think you're having the right kinds of worries, though, in that these are the questions for the board to consider as you're making all of your decisions, not just facilities decisions, but every decision that you make that has a financial implication.
Can you, the purple column,
Yes.
You've said I think a $10 million number and a $14 million number, and that those are somewhere in that purple column. Can you clarify that for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Taken together, the orange and the purple cover a $10.8 million project amount.
So is that I'm a social worker, not a math person. So
Yep.
is that the 9.95 plus the 2.5?
Yes, it's 800 plus 800,000 of the 2.5.
Plus 800,000 of the 2 point. That's where you're getting the 10 million ish.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the orange and the purple borrows that get us to that budget for the elementary school project.
Yes. And again, I don't know that that's the right amount. That's something we'll need.
Right. This is just your
This is
sample
an
projection
illustration.
for us.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it's the right illustration, but it's an illustration to get us thinking about having that conversation.
So under this model,
Yep.
just to reiterate, we're expecting $10.8 million to be available for elementary constructions and
Yep.
still be at or below our debt service limit that we currently have.
Yep.
Okay. And that's with, if we were to do this project that's before us, that's already covered in
Yep.
other.
What it doesn't cover, though, is any decisions that you might make regarding additional lighting costs at the stadium. I think that's a big number that might still be out there in the decision-making process.
So if that were to be taken, then that number might be $9.8 million for.
Yes. Yeah.
And just a reminder to the board, that initial grid I sent in that had the different options, EI is working on like a column to the left that would be reduced price from what the lowest cost option was on that grid. So we expect that in a few days or weeks.
And just one more thing, Mrs. Hughes, if you don't mind reiterating, that when I go to present, I'm going to present our fund balance, but it's always been PFM's recommendation that we spend our fund balance or we spend our cash last.
Yes. Yes, and that's based on a variety of things. First, you're earning more money on your fund balance than you're paying on your debt service right now. Right? So just from a pure math perspective, at the moment, the math is better to keep your cash. Second, you need cash. Cash is king for the times when we have state budget impasses, as we sometimes do in Pennsylvania. We don't want to have to do what's called tax and revenue anticipation notes, where we borrow money so that you can keep the doors open. Those are not fun. Don't want to get in the habit of doing them. And finally, you want to use your cash and figure out the amount of cash that you're going to contribute kind of at the last phase. So based on what I know right now, the elementary school is the last phase, unless somebody tells me otherwise. So that in conjunction with that and in conjunction with the last step of that borrowing, so in this case it would be the purple illustration, we would have conversations with y'all about what is the right amount to contribute based on what your overall goals are, what the math looks like, and credit rating considerations, which will focus a lot on how did your 25 budget do, how is your 26 budget shaping up.
I'm going to ask a dumb question. Just want to make sure.
Oh, it's okay.
So what I'm understanding is we have over $10 million to spend for elementaries.
If you say yes to this exact illustration.
So there is some wiggle room, though.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's based on a balanced budget.
Correct. So that's based on y'all, taking action to bring it into balance.
Initially, I thought we were going to have like $3 or $4 million left over for elementaries.
Yep.
Maybe I was wrong.
So here's the good news. Just like your project costs have come in lower, you've been able to take advantage of really good interest rates over the life of the plan. So as your interest rates and your total debt service costs come in better,
Okay.
that builds capacity. And you've come in a little bit better on every step. Does that make sense?
Good.
It adds up.
One more question. Do we have to take whole 8 or 9 million out at one time, or can we chunk it out?
We could chunk it out if it made sense to do that from a project spend perspective. Meaning, the amount of money we borrow is dependent on a couple of factors. First, those IRS tests that I talked about. But second, practically, how much money do you have to write to contractors and when do you have to write it? that helps us also figure out how much money to borrow and when. So if you came back and told us that this was like a 3-summer project, we might break it up. If it's a 1-summer project, we can't really break it up.
To add on to what Kirk said, the 10.8, that's going to be left over after if we say yes to the base bid, including the high school, middle school, and parent loop. We still have that remainder left over.
I want to do an asterisk. Yes, but it requires you to say yes to these borrowing amounts, 2 future borrowing amounts. So one for 2025 and then one for 2026. Okay. And second, it means that you don't add anything on for lighting at the high school, and also that you have no change orders on any of your projects that can have change orders on it. Okay.
That number could fluctuate a few million.
Could fluctuate a little bit, yep. But it'll be decisions that you'll know about and you'll be making, I don't know how to say it, like affirmatively.
Okay.
That makes sense? Mm-hmm.
That is contingency that's in your soft cost, and that is spread across those projects, so there is money in there for unforeseen other change orders related to those projects. Those are in the numbers that we did.
Yeah. We're, I think, a little more concerned about them on the stadium portion. Not so much on the other.
Can I ask you one more question? There was some. No, not that. But about the. You jolted me. Let's see. Oh, the loop. There was some concerns and questions brought up about the loop. We didn't get an answer on it. Can you get an answer about the one of the question was Eberly Drive and Row Road. The second question was about the traffic when it comes out. Where does it go? So.
KW was here and addressed that with you guys.
Not to our knowledge. We asked a question, but we didn't get a specific answer about that. The tall gentleman that's rather tall, he said he didn't know and he would look into it. On New Meat. Eberly Road and Row Road, intersection there. But we're having trouble with that now. And traffic, when it comes back out around, loops around, traffic that when it comes out back on Eberly, right to the middle school, and come back onto Eberly. There was some discussion about not turning right or not turning left. Can I get clarification on those two things, please?
I'll call them in the morning.
Hey, thank you.
So just to reiterate the financing kind of conversation sample timeline, not looking for any types of decision or anything today. The sample motion gives you a sense of the timeline. If you wanted to borrow as early as possible in 2025, we'll move at your kind of discretion.
Just for clarity, this sample motion is for the elementary borrows?
No,
This
it's
is
for the 2.5 million for the orange,
Okay.
or whatever number you tell us it should be.
But for the current proposed projects.
For the current proposed projects.
Okay, thank you.
And it does give you a little bit of seed money on some elementary. About 800,000.
But if they did not want the seed money, we could back it
We
down
would back it down. Yep.
by 800,000.
Yep.
And seed money is just to sort of get drawings and engineering.
Exactly.
That's that kind of thing. So it's just to get the project started.
Yep. Usually you need some money early on.
I just want to say I appreciate your enthusiasm for talking about numbers. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone smile so much talking about numbers and just like gleaning and really honing into your expertise. So thank you for being here and sharing your expertise.
Thanks. I'm a big nerd, but I really like what I do.
We love that.
Oh.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. All right, we are going to head into our planning and action meeting. 1 second here. All right, so calling the planning and action meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jim Bard,
Here.
Mr. Mike Carey,
Here.
Mr. Levi Kressler,
Here.
Dr. Nathan Goetz,
Here.
Dr. Michael Lyman,
Here.
Mr. Kurt Noggle,
Here.
Mr. Fred Scott,
Here.
Mr. Darren Donovan,
Here.
Mrs. Steph Eberly,
Here.
Mr. Leonardo Blunt, Miss Wadna Pakavar.
Here. Great, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we begin our deliberations this evening, let us once again be reminded of our duty to represent all of the children of this school community, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed, and regardless of need or ability. This meeting is being live streamed and uploaded to the district's YouTube channel. May we now have a moment of silence to reflect on our thoughts, plans, and actions on behalf of the students in the Shippensburg Area School District. And may we also remember Tiffany Ann Reese, 2005 graduate of Shippensburg Area High School. Mr. August, are there any changes to this evening's agenda?
Yes, one minor one. On the first read policies, an incorrect addition of policy 320 was uploaded. The new one is there. The changes between the drafts are minimal, but just to note that change.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next on the agenda is the citizens' comments regarding agenda items. And we have one. Please identify yourself by name, borough, or township and indicate which agenda item you are speaking about. We've come to the portion of the meeting providing an opportunity for public comment. The board will follow the procedures established in policy 903, public comment in board meetings, which is accessible through the district's website. The time is designated for district residents and taxpayers to comment on the items listed for action or deliberation on tonight's agenda. All individuals wishing to comment this evening must have completed the document designated for requests to comment and submitted the document to board secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Each commenter will preface their comments by announcement of their name and applicable group affiliation. The public comment period is limited to more than 30 minutes. Each statement made by the commenter will be limited to 3 minutes. Mrs. Wolfinger.
Evening, everybody. Becky Wolfinger, Southampton Township in Franklin County. I just want to speak quickly to two items, 6A and also 6O. I encourage you guys to take the time to really evaluate the impacts of policy 320 and any potential changes of it to minimize a culture of district staff feeling like they don't have a voice for their own students who attend this school district. I have had many conversations over the last couple of years with many district employees, and it's stark to me how many employees feel like they cannot advocate for their students or their beliefs as a taxpayer because of fear of retaliation. I would really hope as a parent of this district that the people we entrust to teach our children, that their opinions would be valued, heard, and respected as parents and taxpayers of this district. In regards to agenda item 6.0, I really hope you guys don't just vote yes next meeting, but actually consider how this is contributing to a problem. I think this one time on the agenda needs to be very thoroughly and thoughtfully considered. To give some context, we obviously know that we are running a deficit budget year to year. A huge line item that seems to be increasing year over year is technology. We've spent over $1.6 million since 2021 on Chromebooks, cases, admin and teacher laptops, smartboards, and upgrading our wireless. Would you like to know how many tax dollars we have wasted by sending some of those very items out to auction? In 2021, we auctioned 45 smartboards for a total of $530 in income. In 2022, we auctioned 51 smartboards for a total of $360 worth of income. In 2024, we auctioned 1,674 Chromebooks for a total of $4,092 in income. Yes, I'm a nerd, and I went to the auction site and calculated it. Those 1,674 Chromebooks would have originally cost the district somewhere around the area of $1 million when purchased. At a time when we know we need teachers and are running a deficit, I really feel just this one example of operational costs that the district purchases year after year needs to be evaluated and thoroughly considered along with other expenses that we pay. Mr. Noggle mentioned the need, I believe it was last meeting, for forming a committee for exploring things just like this, and after much thought, I think it would be a great idea to form a committee that consisted of teachers, admin, board, and maybe some community members to dig in and evaluate items we are spending on to see where we can trim the fat.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolfinger. Student representatives, Ms. Adna.
Yes. Do I need to go up there and say it, or
You speak right from
okay,
there.
perfect. Thank you. This is my first time.
Welcome.
So, thank you for
Excited
having
to
me.
have you.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you. So currently at Sasha's, Student Council is working hard on the preparations for homecoming, which will be October 12th, and the theme will be the Roaring 20s. Football is currently 4-0, winning as well as winning the LBJ. The boys soccer team is 7-2, as well as field hockey is 7-3. The volleyball team is going on 2-10, and the golf team went 6-0 at their last golf meet. Braden Mitchell, Jack Johnson, Katie Beckenbaugh, Ben Horgos are all going to Mid-Penn, so congratulations to them. Cross Country had their senior night on Tuesday, September 17th, and it was a wonderful night filled with many memories. New cell phone policy is in full force. Girls soccer is 3-6-1. All clubs are beginning to get back into full swing. The school year is off to a great start by going smoothly in terms of physical altercations, discipline, behavior, etc. And lastly, SAT deadlines were due last week.
Thank you. And Mr. Blunt is not here.
He's not here.
Do you have his portion?
We did this together.
Okay.
So.
Good. Okay.
I only have the middle school on here left. We did the high school, what's happening at Sasser's together.
Okay.
Oh, the middle school as well? Okay, sorry. So at the middle school, the Quiz Bowl is starting this Thursday at school. Clubs start up this Wednesday. Student Council is accepting applications for 6th graders who are interested in joining. A roller skating party was hosted at the PTO on September 11th. Cherrydale fundraiser kickoff is Wednesday, September 25th. September is Attendance Awareness Month. Students signed a banner at lunch last week committing to showing up and being prepared to learn. There is a poster contest until September 27th, and the theme is Why School is Cool. A Spirit Week is being held this week.
Perfect. Thank you. Franklin County Career Center report.
We meet on Thursday, so.
We do.
Yeah.
Facilities Committee.
Yes, we met on, I guess, last Thursday night, and it was an interesting meeting. We did preview some of the stuff that you've currently seen, but we did have some conversation around, there's some, the sound system for the stadium was designed, one of the speakers was designed to be up on a pole in behind the press box, but we were unable to put the pole in the right location due to some conduit that was on the ground. So there was a $2,800 upcharge discussed, because of adding some extra speakers to the press box. And I don't know that we ever sat down and decided whether we supported that, but I believe that we do. And then we kind of had the same review with our architects. SiteLogic presented some information, and some of the information that PFM just used was talked about to try to figure out where we're going to go with elementary. We have these elementary issues. PFM used the low budget out of the out of this discussion that we had. They used $10,743,000, and there's a high level of 17,887. So it appears we can make the bottom one work fairly well, but I think we need to sit down and determine which one of these facility upgrades would be feasible. Two of them can wrap around making changes at Shippensburg and Nancy Grayson, and one of them is SACES, heading on to SACES, which seems to kind of seem like it makes a lot of sense to me, but we have a lot of conversation I guess we need to talk about on that. So that takes kind of care of that. We did have on the agenda on during the meeting that we have some more testing proposals coming up. I don't know that we ever really got a chance to talk about them a lot. They will be coming up, I'm sure, on an agenda soon for the high school, middle school program or projects. So we'll have to decide what we want to do there. There was Kleinfelder testing. And Hills Carnes, and they were about 83,000. One was 99,000. We did have an update from Christie a little bit on the budget, and I think the take on that was that we are so close to a break even, although we may this year still be in the black. Had we borrowed the last bond, we probably would have been running a true deficit. I want to say that's right, but I'd like to look over her budget a little bit more. I've got a lot of numbers floating around in my head, and so, but that's kind of the gist of that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Noggle. So there was a transportations meeting that was regularly scheduled for September 12th, but was rescheduled for October 3rd. And I apologize for failing to mention that the board did meet in executive session on September 12th, which was the reasoning for the moving of the transportation meeting for an executive session regarding contractual matters and negotiations. And the board also met previous to this meeting at 6:30 regarding personnel and contractual matters. Next up is
Question. Just wanted to check on the facilities. Will there be an update about the track, Mr. August? Who's doing that, or when are we doing that? Or
So I did meet today with those individuals with ECI and our engineers. Long story short, we're working towards a solution. I'll present that when it's more clear.
okay.
I'm not sure, does the public know the problems we have with the track? Or is that just in or us?
That's why I was asking. I didn't know what was known, or
Is there a possibility that the track won't be ready by next year?
Possibly. I mean, again, it's a little hard to predict. So the milling of the asphalt around the track gave rise to some concerns about the rubber track sticking to that. We're in talks with the track folks and our contractors to see what those tolerances are, and whether at the end of the day, it will either need to be remilled and redone, which could conceivably move the track date back if weather doesn't cooperate, or we may see that the track folks are comfortable guaranteeing the track and giving us some supplemental coverage should there be an issue. So we're still in the process of hashing that out.
When did they find the error? Do you know?
I think it was last week. We did a walk of the track, we did a walk of the turf, and then our engineers were looking at the track and noticed that it had been milled down. So that is what started the conversation.
I understand. Why did they mill it down? I mean, the mud surface is there.
So my understanding is that the asphalt that was laid was not within the tolerance for slope, for drainage. So a certain amount was taken off to get it within the runoff tolerant percentages.
Thank you.
So it was put in wrong? Is that what you're telling me?
I would say that the asphalt was not done correctly, and as a mitigating attempt to get it right, it was milled to get it within those tolerances by the contractor.
Any additional questions, comments?
I'd just like to know if you get a chance to find out exactly what we're going to do. I'd appreciate you being
Absolutely.
for the public to know what's going on.
I do got a question for Kirk on facilities. You said about moving that speaker pole. Is that going to affect the sound in the stadium?
So if I may.
Yeah, you may.
So the sound engineers that are installing it felt that by moving the speakers back, it was going to create some feedback and distortion for the people sitting nearest the press box. Their solution was to add some speakers to make sure that problem wasn't an issue.
So they're still going to have the pole with the speaker on it?
They are. They just can't. As you may recall, the addition of the sound system was after all the stadium drawings had been done. So where the sound folks want to put the pole was very tight to where the back of the bleachers were. Unfortunately, that's where there's a bunch of conduits and pipes and lines and things that can't be disturbed. So the best solution was to move it back. But the sound engineers don't want us to have poor quality sound in a new sound system. So these speakers are their proposal to mitigate that.
It's still going to have the same quality.
Right. These speakers are going to fix whatever problem it being back would create. I mean, I don't have the technical details on it. I'm going by what they're recommending.
It sounded like there would be a dead spot or something kind of like in front of the press box because the speakers were back.
They're going to put some additional smaller speakers in to fix
Right.
that dead area.
Okay, on the track situation, Kirk, you pointed out, how long do they have till they shut the blacktop plants down?
Say that once more.
How long till they shut the blacktop plants down if we got to resurface this?
We're coming up on, they'll run blacktop plants provided we have a mild winter for a good while. The problem becomes when you lay a top coat, if they have to mill it down and lay a top coat, we usually do those types of applications in the summer when the sun heats the base up. Unless they have some type of a spray or an oil, a tack coat or something that maybe could resolve that. I think you're going to be stuck until you're going to get into sunny, hot weather, maybe next summer.
They're going to have a certain temperature, do you know, to spray to put the track material down?
My understanding for one layer, it's 40 degrees and rising, and then another layer is 50 degrees and rising.
See, with the asphalt plants, you can lay 3 or 3.5 inches when it's pretty cool. but when you're laying like a minimal overlay, the base material that you're going to lay it on needs to be up to a pretty decent temperature. I can't remember what that is. That was like 25 years ago.
Okay.
Next, Dr. Donat with the curriculum report.
Good evening, all. So I know this evening you're going to have lots and lots of numbers. So the report that I have for you, we're just going to talk about the ELA PSSA results. And the next time I come to you, I'll bring the math because I wanted to try to break it up a little bit. Troy, the next slide, please. Can you make that full screen by any chance? Thanks, I appreciate it. So in the third grade, what you're seeing is a 3-year total of how the district has performed for third grade ELA. So in 2022, 54% of our students were proficient and advanced on the PSSA. In 2023, that number increased to 56.5%, and this past year, we're at 56%. So what I'm noticing is we tend to be fairly stable, but our teachers will still be looking and doing an item analysis to see where we can improve our instruction. Next slide, please. So for grade 4, you can read those numbers. Again, this looks fairly consistent, and the same situation occurs that our teachers will be evaluating to see where we can improve, where we're already doing strong. Next slide, please. For 5th grade, in 2022, we were up at 59.5%, and the most recent data is we're down at 52%. So we're definitely investigating what happened there. Is it something that has changed in their instruction? Is it something that has changed in our curricular resources? Or is it a result of a cohort coming up through? Not all cohorts are strong or as strong, so it could be a variance in the grades coming up. That doesn't seem to be the case because of the stability in the scores in grades 3 and 4. Next slide. For grade 6, last year's grade 6, I should say, they were scoring at 57%. So again, as you notice, we started low, we went high, we came down a little bit more. All of this is really information that the teachers will be processing and responding to, because it could be an anomaly, or it could be the result of curriculum, or it could be a result of instructional delivery. And we're trying to figure all of that out. For grade 7, next slide, please. Here what we're looking at is 2 years ago, 2023, there was a significant dip. Now I do want to keep in mind and cause you to caution on this. Please look at the scale. It looks like there's this big horrid dip in there, but the scale, it went from 53% down to 43%. So it is a 10% decrease, but it didn't completely crash and burn, which is what the scale makes it look like. And then this past year, it rebounded up to 58%, which is an increase from 2 years prior. So whatever happened last year, it looks, or 2 years ago, it looks like either the cohort was stronger or the teachers adjusted appropriately and improved over time. Next slide, please. For grade 8, you're seeing this past year they were scoring at 50% were proficient and advanced. And one of the things I'd like to point out to you, Troy, can you go back 2 slides? So if you look in 2022, that number is lower. Go forward 1 slide, please. And then in 2023, that's the year it really dipped. That's the same group of students. Then go to the next slide. In 2024, it's still lower than the other cohorts. So this is potential evidence that one cohort was not as strong academically as they've been moving through the system. That could be a result of the instruction that they were missing due to the COVID years. They would have been in 3rd and 4th grade during COVID, or it could be other factors, and that's what our teachers will be digging into in their data. I think that's the end. Is that correct, Troy? Conclusions. So what we need to do, we need to investigate if it's our curriculum, our delivery, the impact of COVID, or a combination of all three things. And I already talked about the COVID cohort, and that our plan is for the ELA teachers to dig into the item analysis of these scores. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
So this kind of data is fun. I mean, once again, I feel like I need to preface this comment by saying that, like, the things that we measure, like, these measurements are messy and whatever, and I hate that we, like, sort of care so much about these measures, but they are what they are. They are what we have. I'm less interested in the variance between the years and more just sort of the magnitude, right? If we just look at all these and it's like 50 to 60%, proficiency in advanced. Kind of seems low in general, right? I mean, like, it's tracking the same across grades. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And, like, sort of.
My thought right now is that it's out of context. So one of the things that you'll be getting in the future, if you remember last year, I came in front of you with our PVOS data, which gave us more robust information in terms of what does this look like compared to the other districts around us? What does this look like in comparison to the state averages? I can tell you I spent time today looking at state averages. Almost all of our grades are above the state average. The other thing that we'll be looking at is what does this look like building specific, depending on the different elementary schools. So there's a lot more study to be done on the data, so we have to be cautious in how we respond. We wouldn't want to say everything's horrible, because it's not. Like I said, we're above state averages in most cases, but it is things that we need to evaluate and we need to study.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to make a critical comment, and I'm not trying to be aggressive in any sense. I mean, but this is the core work that we're doing in education, right? And these measures are not perfect, but they're an indicator of our progress in doing the things that we're trying to do. And that's great that we're above the state average. Can't complain about that. But also, just as in a, I don't know, just stand alone, you look at those percentages and you're like, I mean, are we really doing what we're supposed to be doing if this is like the purpose of public education, right? And so I guess from my perspective, I would just say, like, this is not to hold anyone's feet to the fire. This is more about saying to the educators who are responsible for this, hey, if there are things that we can do on our end to sort of help, like, you guys, y'all are the professionals. It's not our job, right? So if there are chains that are binding you, that are keeping you from doing, like, the great things that you need to be doing to sort of help, like, these increase, like, what are the chains that we need to take off, or is there low-lying fruit? Are there resources that we could allocate differently to enable this sort of stuff, right? So we don't know what we don't know.
I love that.
And just, like, sort of requesting, or, at least from my perspective, giving, carte blanche to you to provide, invitations to us on how we can better support this mission.
I love what you're saying, and I would respond in two ways. One of which is to remind the board of the significant investment that you have already authorized by having all of our ELA teachers in kindergarten through hopefully 5th grade participate in letters training. That's that science of reading training. That is a very robust 2-year program. At this point in time, we have our kindergarten teachers, our 1st grade teachers, 2nd grade teachers, 3rd grade teachers, and 4th grade teachers have at least 1 year. Some of them have finished the 2-year training of that. So that's one way in which you all have been supporting our ELA teachers to improve the scores. And we're excited and hopeful of how that will, the fruit that will yield. Another way in which you've already been supporting us is by authorizing the purchase of decodables, which were aligned with the science of reading. That was a significant financial investment. Teachers just received those last week and have started to use them in their classrooms, and they're so excited about it. Another thing that our teachers have been doing is they have been pouring into data meetings the last couple of days. These data meetings are allowing them to look at their screeners to help promote literacy and fluency, and we're going to hopefully, fingers crossed, in a couple of years, see better scores than what you're looking at now. Finally, what you can do to support us is remember when we were looking at budgeting for the current academic year, interventionalists, especially at that middle school, would be a huge win, because some of the students who struggled to learn how to read in their early elementary years, that learning loss is compounded by the time they hit middle school, and it's very challenging to make up. Interventionalists for math and reading certainly go a long way to help our students achieve that proficient and advanced. It's helping the lower achieving students be able to rise up to proficient and advanced.
So I appreciate that. So I'm hearing that we need to focus on interventionalists. That's a clear sort of thing that we can do. We also have began to have conversations, and we've paused them for a while. Conversations about the schedule flip, and as I understand it, all the evidence suggests that academic performance improves both for older kids and younger kids when we have that schedule flip. And I guess I'd just like to take this opportunity to remind administration that I think the board's still interested in exploring that. And I'm not sure what the next step is, but we want to upset all of the high school teachers and do that. And then I wonder also about, and I think I might be using outdated language, but ESL support. If we need to plan ahead for the next, for what's on the horizon in 5 or 10 years in our community, and bolster our, sort of ESL support thing, or are we adequately staffed in that area?
That's always a challenging question to answer with our English language learners, because numbers continue to be fluid. As of this morning, we were up at, I think it was 112 students. I feel like it might have been a little bit more. I had the information printed and I forgot to bring it with me.
We have 215 active ELL
sorry,
students.
I was thinking
8 in. I know this because I just asked for it. So,
yeah.
8 in the pipeline, and I believe 53 that are on monitoring.
So.
And those numbers are increasing, right?
They continue to increase. Last year it was 201. So yes, they are continuing to increase. And we did hire 2 ELD teachers for this academic year. They're doing great. We might need to be looking at, do we need a part-time person, or will we contract with the IEU for the next year?
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of just using this opportunity to remind my fellow board members that this is, at least from my perspective, seems like it's going to be a priority, and we're going to need to consider additional resources in the ELL, thank you for correcting me, area for current or for upcoming budget years.
And I would just piggyback off of what Dr. Donat said. The science of, so we are building a coherent literacy program and system from K through the elementary schools. So that training is going to take a while to take root as teachers figure out the best practices and work together as grade levels to develop consistency. I think from our conversations, those decodables are key elements, because the curriculum resources have to match the curricular philosophy and the pedagogical techniques. So there is a little bit of a disconnect that these decodables do fill the gap on. So as we further align the instructional practices to the resources, I think you'll see, or we believe we will see, marked improvement throughout the system. So we're really planting seeds in kindergarten and first grade for the kids that are going to take PSSAs in third grade, and we hope that ripples through the system.
I mean, I guess just as a last comment, I really appreciate the presentation, and I really appreciate our educators and all of the work that they do. And I love that we're beating state averages on these things, but I hesitate to give us too much of a pat on the back, because when I look at those numbers, I see 40% of our students are not proficient in reading, and I'm thinking 40%? Like, I feel like we're not quite fulfilling the mission of a public education institution if 40% of our students can't perform at a proficient level on a reading assessment.
And I would certainly encourage you to talk with some of our elementary ELA teachers and hear the ways in which they are interacting with data in order to address those types of scenarios. They want desperately all of our students to be successful.
I've no doubt.
They care deeply, and I have full faith that they are working hard to adopt this training and to implement it and to respond in meaningful ways to student needs.
And I would just follow up, Dr. Goetz, to your question about start times. You talk about next steps. There's a current survey out to parents that has over 660 responses on that topic, which the outreach committee will be reviewing in a few weeks.
Cool, thanks.
So take the survey.
It's on the district website.
Thank you.
I took it.
Mrs. Lentz, finance report.
Good evening. So 2 things I wanted to talk with the board this evening. I wanted to give you an update on the summer 2024 food service program, and then I know there was a question asked about our preliminary year-end results for last fiscal year for 23-24. So starting with the summer 2024 food service program, we operated 4 locations for breakfast. I'll wait for Dr. Stevens to catch up. Go ahead, one more slide. So we operated 4 locations for breakfast, 14 sites for lunch, and we served 36 days this summer. During the summer, we served 2 different ways. We served what we called the congregate meal setting and the non-congregate meal setting. So Monday through Thursday, students could come to certain sites in the district, and they could sit down and have a free breakfast and a free lunch. We served 2,342 breakfast in the congregate meal setting and 4,942 lunches. And then for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we offered families to come pick up a bundled meal where they got a breakfast and lunch for their child for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we served 3,385 breakfast and then again 3,385 lunches in the bundled meal service. That gave us a total meals served of 14,054 meals. When you compare that to last summer, we had served 11,555 meals. So we are pleased to say that I believe this program continues to grow year over year. If you recall, during last fiscal year, we had asked for approval to apply for a No Kid Hungry grant. That grant, we were awarded just over $21,000, and we purchased 2 new Oliver packing machines that we used to bundle the meals that we gave out during the summer meal program. We were fortunate. The No Kid Hungry organization came and visited our site. They visited how our food service department packaged those meals and then distributed those meals. And they wrote a very nice article regarding our summer lunch program. So I know it's really tiny there, but the link is there. If you want to click on it for the board members, I put the article in your packet for you to read at a later date. But it was very nice, the partnership that we had with No Kids Hungry. And then just a special thank you. Here's a list of our staff that work the 24-24 summer lunch program. If it wasn't for them, we would not be able to offer this program. So thank you to all of our staff, because we know that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of paperwork, and we appreciate you and we appreciate everything you do for this community and the students in our community. So these numbers here, they are subject to change, but I believe they are pretty concrete numbers. Our audit review is still in progress. We got most of it done. So I am giving you the preliminary year-end results because I know that it was asked at the last meeting. So as you can see, for 23-24, we had budgeted revenues at about 65.4 million. We came in actually at 69.2 million in revenues. We had budgeted about 67.1 million in expenditures for 2023-24, and we came in at about 68.5 million in expenditures. So we had originally budgeted a deficit of about $1.7 million. When we look at our actual numbers, we actually came into the good at about 668,000, which we knew that we were hopefully going to come into the good because we have not fully expended the amount we have set aside for annual debt service payments. So we have 3.39 million set aside for that annual debt service payment. And because we haven't spent all that yet, that helped us come in to a surplus for this last fiscal year. So then the first gray line you see there, this is a hypothetical analysis. If the board would have borrowed the 3.39 million, that would have been an additional expenditure to the budget line item. And then you can see that if we had budgeted, or if we had expended everything we budgeted in the debt service line item, we would have actually came in at a deficit of 676,000 at the end of last fiscal year. So I'd share this with the board, but I wanted to bring back a little bit of additional information. So when we put together the 24-25 budget, we were conservative on how much revenue we thought the state was going to give us. And we actually received in about 2.2 million in state revenue. We had only budgeted a little over 1 million in new state funding. So we are to the good about 1.2 million in state funding. We had projected original deficit for the 24-25 fiscal year of 3.5 million. That additional state money of 1.2 million takes our revised deficit down to about 3 million for 24-25. Keep in mind, again, we have not fully borrowed the 3.39 million in debt service. So the line item that you see there is the amount of money through the series of 2024. So we can put back into the budget about 1.1 million, which would then lessen our deficit for 24-25 to about 1.2 million. But again, we are looking to end this current fiscal year in a deficit of about 1.2 million. Just wanted to share with you another estimate. If you were to go ahead and borrow the series of 2025 to finish out these projects, just the second line to the bottom, you can see that we would borrow up to we would have about $896,000 we could add back in to the budget since we would not have borrowed the 3.39 million. That would bring us to a projected deficit in 24-25 of about 1.4 million. So I know there's been talk about where else could we find money potentially for these construction projects. And as PFM has said, and that they recommend that we keep our cash to last. But here is the newest estimate of our fund balance for the general fund. So in the first column is the description of the various fund balances that the district maintains. And as you can see, the balance as of 6/30 in our general fund balance as of 2023 was about 16.4 million. In 23-24, we used about 2.6 million, we were able to distribute that plus the 668,000. So that's what you see in column in the proposed distribution at 6/30/2024 column. And then you can see what we are estimating as our actual fund balance as of 6/30/2024. So at the end of last fiscal year, we have a fund balance of 17.1 million. However, in 24-25, we are proposing using 4.5 million of fund balance. So our proposed ending fund balance as of 6/30/2025 is 12.6 million. I have 2 line items highlighted there. We've been setting money back for future capital projects. So we have 3.6 million sitting in that line item that we could use for capital projects. And we also had set aside money for the stadium and track of 1.6 million. And then should the board want to spend other fund balance line items, you can, but they would have to be redesignated because we have them designated for purposes for funding our 7th grade teaching, for funding capital technology projects, for funding other maintenance, curriculum materials, district safety, and then we have some special education curriculum money, and then we let our building budgets keep any leftover monies that they can roll forward and use for bigger purchases within their building. I know that was quick. Is there any questions?
I'll give you one. So the 7th grade teaching positions, I remember when we did that and we planned because we knew we were building onto the school, so we need to have teachers in those classrooms and that. I'm assuming that we need to add those into our general budget.
That is correct. So what we are doing, we are slowly adding those positions into our budget. So there was a motion among the board to commit $1 million to help fund the new 7th grade teaching positions. So in 23-24, we funded 4 of those 7th grade teaching positions, all 4 of them with fund balance in 23-24. If you go across, you'll see that we're funding 3 of the 4 teachers in 24-25. The next year we'll fund 2, and the next year we'll fund 1. So we're slowly absorbing these teachers into our general fund
Well planned
budget.
out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is a pass. What's the future look like? I want what you're the person. What's the future look financially for us?
So that's a great question because, as you know, we never know what the state is going to give us. What I can tell you is our Act 1 index is currently high right now, and we have been told that that is going to drop off. So the amount of money we can generate in tax revenue is going to decrease in the future. You are currently looking at, for the current fiscal year, of ending in a true deficit. Unless something happens that none of us projected, like a warehouse sells and you get $1 million from it transferring ownership, you are truly looking at a deficit. And then remember, when you start budgeting for 25-26, you're going to have to make up the deficit from this year as well as any new increases for next year. And as you all know, we always have increases year over year. Salaries, benefits, nothing stays flat.
And the teacher, we are going to go arbitration with the teacher or discussion with the teacher's salary and benefits.
That is correct. Negotiations with the professional supports or professional staff will start in January.
Is that a pretty big hit to our budget normally?
It all depends what is negotiated.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Donation report. One to highlight: Weaver Tire and Alignment, Inc. A monetary donation to our FFA of $80. And just to highlight, 2 of our board members were recognized by PSBA, Mr. Bard and Mr. Scott, for 5 years of service on the board. So we would like to congratulate you on that milestone. So thank you very much for your service.
Amen. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Get certificates.
They should be in their packets. If not, we'll get them to them.
All All right, moving on to the consent agenda, we have the 4A, the approval of minutes. 4B, finance report with the attachments available. 4C, curriculum maps. 4D, the Sunday use of facilities. 4E, we have the personnel and professional and support to include terminations and those that have completed their 30-day probationary period, along with new appointments and substitutes. Is there a motion to approve item 4A through 4E?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Donovan, second by Dr. Lyman. Discussion.
One thing, this supplemental, a master. Every time a teacher get a master's degree, what's a supplemental?
Can't hear you, Mr. Scott.
Every time the teachers get a master, they have to perform up, up their education. So we pay for that.
So within the contract, there's a certain number of credits that a teacher is eligible to have. When they hit certain milestones, it moves them across the salary schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5A, we have the 2024-25 Greyhound Virtual Academy Student Parent Handbook. Is there a motion to approve item 5A?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carey, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5B, we have the robotics grant. Mrs. Fowler is seeking to for approval to apply for and accept a $1,600 grant from the Pennsylvania Association of School Retirees. If approved, this would be used for purchasing robotics and software licenses. Is there a motion to approve item 5B?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Bard, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carey. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5C, we have the Ag and Youth Grant. Miss Bolts is Ag teacher at the high school, is seeking to approve and apply for the Ag and Youth Grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture for $7,500. Is there a motion to approve item 5C?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Bard, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carey. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5D, is the Board of Directors meeting schedule for 2025. Administration will recommend approval of the attached schedule of Board of School Directors meetings for the 2025 school year. Is there a motion to approve item 5D?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carey. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5E is the River Rock Academy contract. River Rock Academy provides educational and counseling services for 12 reserved student slots, 7 secondary and 5 elementary in the Shippensburg Area School District. The proposed agreement is for the 24-25 school year. Is there a motion to approve item 5E?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Lyman. Discussion? Just one question. How often are we going over this initial proposed of the 12 reserved?
I don't have that information. I can get it for you.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5F is the Hoffman Academy Master Agreement and Addendum. Administration recommends approval of the attached Hoffman Homes Incorporated Agreement. The cost of the program services is $150 per instructional day while school is in session. Is there a motion to approve item 5F?
So moved.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Donovan. Is there a second?
Fred Scott seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. 5G is speech therapy. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5G, the speech therapy agreement. The administration recommends that the board of directors approve an agreement for virtual speech therapy services up to 36 days at a rate of $595 per school day for the 24-25 school year. The non-routine hours will be billed on a periodic basis at the rate of $104 per hour, along with any necessary and reasonable travel reimbursement. Is there a motion to approve item 5G?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carey, second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Lyman. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5H, the Superintendent's Leadership Network membership for the 24-25 school year. The superintendent is seeking approval to join and pay for the 24-25 membership into the Superintendent Leadership Network. The cost is $3,000 and will be paid from the superintendent budget. Is there a motion to approve item 5H?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Donovan, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carey. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5I is the electricity contract, the period beyond July 2025. The district participates in an electricity consortium, which is managed by Provident Energy Consulting. Our current electric supply agreement will end in July 2025. PEC will soon be soliciting for quotes and make a recommendation to the district to enter into our next supplyment agreement. Is there a motion to approve item 5I?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Lyman, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carey. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5J is the Shippensburg Area Joint School Authority. Administration recommends that the school board appoint the following 3 district residents to the Shippensburg Area Joint School Authority in order to transfer the land where the middle school is located from the joint authority to the school district. 1, Charlie Suiters, 2, Becky Wolfinger, and 3, Marcy Taylor. Is there a motion to approve item 5J?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Noggle. Discussion.
Just a quick question on the process here. So does the joint authority sort of dissolve itself after the property's transferred?
Yes.
That is the intent. They won't really have a function after that.
So this is just fulfilling like a legal sort of weirdness to make something happen, and then it happens, and then it's
Correct.
purpose is served, and we move on.
The technical action to deal with the deed that probably should have been done 20 years ago.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5K, the amendment number 3 of the NPDES permit revisions. The administration, through the Facilities Committee, recommends the approval of this amendment to the agreement with EI Associates for supplemental services related to the NPDES permit with a cost of $12,500 to be pulled from the contingency project fund balance. Is there a motion to approve item 5K?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Donovan, second by Mr. Carey. Discussion.
I sent each of the board members a little bit of this kind of has to do with the topsoil pile as well. And it kind of has to do with the high school, middle school project. This $12,500 will be used to locate or actually rewrite for an NPDES permit for a couple of different things. And one was the topsoil pile actually that we talked about moving over by the first baseline would protrude out of the limit of disturbance area. But we had initially talked about this in facilities, and I said, yeah, we got to do this, but I questioned it a little bit because it's only 5,000 square feet along the bank. And as I remember back to another project I worked on, that that soil conservation does allow you expansion with no penalties up to a specific percentage of square foot. The other part that was mentioned in their quote was a new vault for a water pit. I think there was something else. So, but those projects we haven't approved those projects yet. And so I didn't know if we should do this exactly right now or not. But they did, K&W's behalf, they did do work about this topsoil pile, and so they do have some time and information or invested in it. So I just wanted everybody to know that this is paying them to change a print before we even kind of agreed to do the project on that. And for the topsoil pile, I don't believe that it is necessary to actually change a print or change an NPDS permit when it's just that small area. I believe they at one time told us we could do that. So it's going to have to be done if we do the middle school, high school project. Regardless, I just wanted y'all to know that.
Well, should we wait till then, till we approve the other project, or should we do it now?
I believe we probably could. Yeah.
But should?
Well, we could. We could wait until we voted on the middle school project, but I'm pretty sure that they do have some monies tied up in it, and I think there is everybody's kind of waiting a little bit to figure out, the excavator's waiting to push that pile over there. So I'm telling you that this is voting on something that if we do the middle school, high school project, you're going to pay, and we probably should pay some of this to the topsoil pile anyhow. So just wanted to clear that up.
We don't know. I mean, they're using a lot of that topsoil now,
They are.
and I don't know. Just it seems like that's an awful lot to move that topsoil pile.
It's not solely just for the topsoil. It is for
Right. It's for the
couple
right,
other things.
Right.
And to be clear, Mr. Bard, this is not to move it.
Now, that
That's a
is-
separate bill.
That's just engineering.
This is the engineering to move it.
Yeah, what turned out should have been a very simple thing kind of ended up.
Wonder if there's no dirt to move.
What's that?
Wonder if there's no dirt to move.
Oh, there'll be some dirt to move. I just don't know how
But
much.
is
It
it
will be.
the pile that we thought it was? The pile isn't as big as we thought it was going to be, and not as much work as what we thought it was going to be. Are we paying for something that might be?
The topsoil piles, the topsoil would have cost the district $200 a load, I think is what the final number was, plus to move it over there. So the site contractor would have given us a bid to move it and put a decorative berm along the softball field line. Plenty of room. I think all the topsoil will go over there because the pile isn't near as big because he's spread topsoil around. And so we can table it.
I would just caution, I'm not sure how much work K&W has done on this already.
Correct.
So I would caution the board that, like this is what the board requested, or at least part of the process to move the dirt. And this is the bill that came forward with it.
Actually, this probably wouldn't have been incurred to move the dirt is what I was trying to get at. because there was no there's no I don't believe there to be any NPDS permit required to move the dirt over there. So,
So, Mr. Noggle, I appreciate that you tried to make things clearer for me, but I'm still confused.
you are confused, I know.
So,
We're gonna owe them something,
so
but could they clarify?
is it, what are you recommending? That's, I guess
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we need to hear.
Rochelle, do you have anything that do you know anything about this? Was it was outside the limit of disturbance, but it was only 5,000 square feet.
I'm not sure about that. I just know when you go outside the limit of disturbance,
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I just went outside the limit of disturbance, and there's a gray space or square footage that you can do. So,
Can we table this till we get more specifics? What's going on?
My other question would be like, is the honking pile of dirt in the way of
no.
what we're doing now with the athletic facility? Like,
At some point, I believe we're going to have to get the dirt out of the stadium. You know, when track comes, I mean, I believe we're using some of that area.
yeah.
I think it'll all be over at the bank, Bill.
And if we table, what the purpose is to find out what?
To find out, see,
How much dirt
I
is
am
going
in
here?
question on whether
I guess the table, how much dirt is going
I'd like to call EI or have us clarification on that, what we're paying for on that particular item.
So you question whether we need the permit.
I question whether we actually, if we're gonna take and do the middle school, high school project, you gotta pay it. If we're not, then you waste $12,500 ahead of time, and part of that does include the topsoil pile.
When you say the middle school project, you're talking about what
That
was
was one more
presented
bit of it.
earlier.
That's where that vault comes in. So I'm not completely clear on why we pay that maybe ahead of time, but it's
Mr.
it's
Mr.
money.
Noggle, would you recommend tabling this item?
I would. I'd like to see this tabled at least until we can get a little clarity on that.
I'm assuming it's on the agenda because somebody recommended it.
It came out of facilities.
It did. I know it did. It came out of us.
So
But
That was my
until
next question, because
Yeah, it did.
So
But then once I read, I didn't necessarily have that, look, the agreement over.
So this isn't something that came from our construction folks. I'm sorry, I don't know all the right terms.
No, it didn't come from them.
So there's not like a construction timetable behind this. That if we delay, we're going to.
Well, it could, that's what I'm worried
So
about.
there's some overlap between the stadium project where this dirt currently sits and where it's ultimately going to go. I believe, Rochelle, this is the part that I may need to lean on you for. This cost is going to come out of contingency on the next project, correct? On the stadium project or the other one? Okay.
That's the problem.
Would be under stadium. Okay.
We have to move the dirt so we can seed.
How far do we have to move the dirt?
I couldn't hear.
How far do we have to move the dirt?
I think all of it will fit over along the bank, Fred.
So from one side of the field to the other side of the field.
Yeah.
Mr. Noggle, when I mean, I'm looking at the document that's attached, right, that has the description of work, and I'm confused about which of those 4 items under description of work you're, like, I guess, questioning.
Well, they had They had the vault in there, Nathan, for Dr. Goetz.
Sorry, the what?
A vault for, which one are you looking at?
The attachment, the PDF that's attached.
Oh, I'm looking at the PDF, from EI.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it has that description of work.
Yes.
I mean, it talks about the NPDES amendment that you were referring to.
Right. We currently already have an NPDS for the entire project. They added this new vault, they added this new topsoil, and there was something else on there. But anyhow, so currently we're okay. But by the addition of the vault, moving the topsoil, and this vault's going to be needed for the next project, we need to get update the NPDS permit. But I don't think we need to update the NPDS permit for the topsoil itself.
Well, I mean, I guess based on what I'm hearing you say, if I don't have any reason to oppose or believe that we are not going to continue with the high school or middle school project, then it sounds like this needs to be done anyway. So
that's what I was telling you.
Yeah.
If you don't go forward with that, you just spent $12,500 that you wouldn't have to.
Well, I would just point out description of work. K&W engaged with numerous calls, meetings, sketches, and calculations related to the work associated with creating a flat adjacent area adjacent to the softball field and helping the district determine the location in which to spoil the remaining topsoil described above. So there's already work been done. They've already done those meetings and those calls and that design. I would just caution the board that there has been effort on K&W's part that would need to be paid.
That's why I said they have done some work. How much work it is, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we're going to pay for something that we haven't even bid yet, and they have done work for us to some level on the topsoil pile and a few things. So I don't know if I have a recommend. Help me out.
Well, I appreciate the point, but I guess I haven't heard any reason that we might not be proceeding with the high school and middle school projects. In which case, it all just seems sort of moot because.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree with you because when I came into tonight's meeting, I was thinking we only had like $3 or $4 million for elementary. Now we have 9. I was just faked out. And then
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But
Well,
Mr. Noggle,
you.
remember, that is if you have a balanced budget.
I know, and that's trying to get my head wrapped around all of that. And so I just don't want to throw $12,500 out. If there's any possibility, I just wanted the board to know what that was, where that was at, and if we don't move forward with these projects, that is tied to some of that.
Okay, so can I try to make things
You can.
simple? Mainly for me. So if you think that you will be voting for the next project, the middle school thing that we went over earlier with the parent loop and all the other construction bits, if you think you're going to vote for that, you should also vote for this because it's going to have to be done either way. Correct?
Correct.
All right, that helped me.
All right.
Long comment. Sorry, folks.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the
Appreciate your work.
conversation and discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Did I hear a no?
No.
Mrs. Lentz, roll call, please.
Mr. Jim Bard,
Yeah.
Mr. Mike Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Levi Kressler,
Yes.
Dr. Nathan Goetz,
Yes.
Dr. Michael Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Kurt Noggle,
Yes.
Mr. Fred Scott,
No.
Mr. Darren Donovan,
No.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7 yes, 2 no.
Item 5L, acting business administrator / board secretary. Administration recommends approval of an additional payment of $100 per day effective September 24th, 2024 to Joanne Negley for additional duties and responsibilities serving as the acting business administrator / board secretary for the Shippensburg Area School District to an end date that coincides with the start date of the new business administrator. Is there a motion to approve item 5L?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carey. Discussion?
Yeah, I personally don't think that's enough, but, I mean, she's taken on a lot. You know, I think we need to try to compensate her a little bit more. I mean, you know, the next thing of what we're gonna vote on, you know, the price of that is like way too much in my opinion, so I just think we need to up that price too.
I think, Superintendent, didn't you say if we hired somebody off it'd be about $300 a day?
That number's the number Mrs. Nagley quoted to me.
It's about $300 a day.
Yeah, the amount that's on the agenda item.
Yeah, but you said if we brought somebody in, it's going to cost us $300 a day.
It would be far more expensive to bring in
more
an instrument.
expensive. So she's got to doing the same work. It's got her working plus Christie's work. I agree with Jim that we should compensate her for $100 or not very much compensation for the added work.
It's per day.
Per day.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to pay somebody off the street for $300, so I don't mind taking care of somebody in the system.
Who negotiated this?
There wasn't really a negotiation. I said, well, yeah, she gave me a number. That's what I put forward. Yeah, being it under what we would assume, it seemed like a reasonable ask on her part.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
What are we voting on? $100? No. Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Mike Carey.
I'm voting yes to giving her the $100.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. The roll call is based on $100 a day.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Levi Kressler.
Yes.
Dr. Nathan Goetz.
Yes.
Dr. Michael Lyman.
Yes.
Mr. Kurt Noggle.
Yes.
Mr. Fred Scott.
No.
Mr. Jim Bard.
No.
Mr. Darren Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
Yes.
Motion carried 7 yes, 2 no.
5M, business manager contract. A motion to approve the contract of Mr. Caleb Barwin as business administrator of the Shippensburg Area School District at a salary of $115,000 for a 2-year, 8-month term commencing on or about October 21st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027. The business administrator shall sign and execute a formal agreement in compliance with provisions of the Pennsylvania Public School Code of 1949 as amended and Act 141 of 2012. Is there a motion to approve item 5M?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Goetz, second.
Second.
Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Roll call.
I feel like we should discuss this in public. I think the board has gone through appropriate processes to interview a candidate. I think it's a good candidate. And we need to move forward with hiring someone as soon as possible. And that someone should be someone that has a good relationship with our superintendent. And I trust the people who served on that committee, and I think they brought us a good candidate, and that we should move forward. And any other action is a lot of time and money wasted. I don't know what else to say. I think we need to keep the business office staffed, and we have, if we do this, if this does not pass, we will have a very difficult time finding someone else to fill this position.
So, Dr. Lyman, thank you for your willingness to have this discussion in public regarding appropriate processes. I mean, I have a different viewpoint on appropriate processes, which also include majority consensus around board members that are involved, along with second interviews, which have been consistent with the board's protocols of hiring administrative personnel, which we also see with our operations manager or our custodial position, which has also not happened. When we negate following our systems, we're setting a precedence that this is our standard. I'm very policy driven, systems driven, and that's not what this board has done in the past. I'm gonna let it at that because
For me, we're coming to a time we're going to do construction, teacher's contract, and other things. I would like a more seasoned person to be in that position, to come in running and not have to be trained on Shippensburg School District's policies and things like that. So that's why I can't support this mission.
Any additional discussion comments?
I mean, I'll just say that I sat through the interviews. I believe it was a fair process. More than adequate at sort of reviewing and assessing potential candidates. I'm very excited that Mr. Barwin applied for a position at Shippensburg, and I think Shippensburg will be lucky to get him. And I am frankly excited to see him grow in this role, and believe that the district's finances will be in very competent hands with this hire. Thanks.
Any additional comments, discussion? Christy, can you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Levi Kressler,
Yes.
Dr. Nathan Goetz,
Yes.
Dr. Michael Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Kurt Noggle,
No.
Mr. Fred Scott,
No.
Mr. Jim Bard,
No.
Mr. Mike Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Darren Donovan,
Yes.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
No. Five N.
5 yes, 4 no.
So 5N is the aquatic instructor, aide, and music teacher. So this is my apologies for not voting on this at the last meeting. We had made an amendment to this motion and we approved the amendment, but not the actual motion. So we are voting on that tonight. And that motion is a motion to include an aquatic instructor and aquatic aide along with a full-time music teacher as a budget priority for the 25-26 school year. Is there a motion to approve item 5N?
Fred Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Scott, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Discussion?
Yeah, this don't mean that we're gonna hire him. This is just a priority on the budget, correct?
Correct.
So it still could not make it next year.
That would be a board decision to continue to include it in the budget process.
So the original, I guess my question, the original motion before the amendment was to hire them now?
I think this was a separate motion. The motion to hire them now didn't pass.
That was the original. Then we amended it to this. So Jim's correct in saying that it would have been a part-time music teacher and then the aquatics program. I think Jim and I share Jim's concern is we want to make sure that when this comes up or this to be implemented, that everything is already in place. We don't want to wait till the last minute and then have like scheduling conflicts. We want to make sure the right people are going to be in the right place, so that it's a smooth transition into the upcoming school year.
Right, and it's still saying it all depends on the board that they may not even make it. I mean, you don't know that, but you know, the original motion was to hire them. Last meeting was to hire them now, but all right.
So what I envision this, Mr. Bard, is, you know, we do the list of personnel every year. These two are on that list. If the board wants to take them off, I mean, we're going to have to look at all the numbers. You know, they'll be on the list based on this motion to be hired for next year.
Well, I guess my look at it is, you know, why couldn't we have passed the original motion, and then if we don't hire them till next year, okay, but we know they're coming.
Because we're trying to incorporate these positions into the normal budget process.
I understand that, but it's still, that may not make it next year at all in the budget. But if we would say we're going to go ahead and do it now, then you're not going to hire a swim teacher now because, you know, we're already into this thing. I mean, already into the school year. So
I think it's
vote for it. Go.
It's off in the future, and
we vote for it, but we just don't feel it to affect the budget this year. It's just a position we're saying we'll put the position there, but we're not spending any money
that we can plan and prepare for. I asked the board members to provide me with some of their goals, wishes, ambitions for their tenure on the board so that we can hold each other accountable to ensure that these positions, you know, come into fruition.
I didn't know about that many positions, but I know you did that.
So when we're also voting on dirt piles, we can remember that $12,500, you know, and some of these small financial commitments that we're making, that we can keep in mind that we have a greater vision of this. Just like Dwayne Bird had with the 7 teachers and with his allocation of some of the Peasers money and removing some of that because of that amount being higher. We could remove that out of the budget to put that towards the teachers. Like, to have a goal, a mission, and a vision as a board to make a commitment that this is a priority. I mean, we don't want to set a precedence of creating positions and programs in the middle of the school year, but it is this board's mission and vision, because we know its importance for the next school year.
But it also leaves, I mean, if 300 more kindergartners move in, and I mean, that won't happen, but it gives us a little bit of flexibility because we don't know what the future holds.
So taking this motion at face value, I mean, I appreciate the initiative to, you know, for the board to sort of say to administration, like, this is a thing that we care about. But you know, I don't know. I just listened to Dr. Donat's presentation and sort of emphasized, you know, that 40% of our students aren't reading at a proficient level, and you know, I don't know that stuff, you know, that it's. I guess what I'm saying is, it's always going to be administration's job to weigh the priorities, the various priorities that exist, and what we see sort of from our outside seats, you know, maybe biased, and I, you know, sort of expect are, that's what we pay our professional administrators to do, is to weigh the value of a lot of things that we would like to do, because there's never enough marbles for everybody, but to weigh, those priorities and make those decisions. But so I think it's great that we sort of say to the administration, this is something we care about, but ultimately it's going to be up to administration to, create a priority list, and hope. I mean, that's what we need to trust them to be able to do well.
I don't know. I just think it's pretty astounding that we still have, even in our kayak program, that we still have like 34, 35 students drowning in a pool, not even actively swimming, based out of our student population. We can talk about, 40% of students not being proficient, or 50% not being proficient, to weigh what is more important, like life skills, ELA. I mean, we are definitely put in a difficult position to decide. Water safety.
I mean, I'm all about the pool. We've got the resource. We should use it. 100%. But it also represents a bit of mission creep, I think, right? The primary mission of public education is to read and write and arithmetic, right? The other stuff, super critical, very important. But I don't know.
Yeah, and
making priorities is hard.
Yeah, and I think that's what Miss Everly is saying. These would be very hard decisions when budget time comes, because we're deciding between really, really good ideas for our kids, and it's hard to say which is more important.
Right, like you got these kids that might be like only 50% proficient in ELA, but maybe they could excel in triathlons, Dr. Goetz, to swim, bike and run, and to excel, and their mental health, 100%, which is another burden that's been put on public schools.
Just to be clear, I'm not opposed to the motion, and I'm going to vote for it.
So where are we at?
There's a motion.
So there is a motion, second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, we have our discussion agenda. We have the policies for the first reading. That is 320, 321, 325, 812, 814, 822, and 823. 6B, we have the request to form a new activity, dance and exercise club. The high school teachers, Nicole Hostetler and Bonnie Moose, are requesting to form a dance and exercise club to meet and participate to dance and exercise. 6C is the request to form a new activity, the Cornhole Club. High school teachers, Aaron Powell is requesting to form a cornhole club for students to learn and compete and play cornhole. Please stop me if you have questions regarding. 6D is the 2025 PSBA officer election, president-elect. PSBA holds annual elections for members interested in holding leadership positions within PSBA. Members, school districts in good standings may participate in the election of officers. PSBA is asking for the Board of School Directors to include the voting of the 2025 PSBA officers on an agenda for the discussion, followed by action. The deadline to submit responses is no longer than October 25th at 5 p.m. And 6E is also the same as the previous, but also for the vice president. Those nominees are listed. 6F is also for the PSBA Insurance Trust trustees for seat 1. 6G is for the trust trustees, seat 2. 6H is for seat 3. 6I is for the Forum Steering Committee. 6J is for the Hoffman Academy Addendum. Administration recommends approval of the attached Hoffman Homes addendum with the cost of $150 per instructional day. 6K is the Read Live license, which provides fluency practice for readers at a cost of $1,610 and will be split between the curriculum budget and the special education budget. 6L is the vision insurance renewal. Administration will recommend that the board of directors approve a 2-year agreement. 6M is the facility use agreement with the Shippensburg University Foundation. The administration recommends approval of the facility use agreement with Shippensburg University Foundation to hold interscholastic athletic programs at the Robb Athletic Complex on September 30th and October 7th. A total of 2 contests will be played on the turf field at a cost of $400 per date. 6N is the local audit firm approval. Administration recommends continuing its long-standing partnership with Boyer and Ritter as its local audit firm due to its excellent service and reasonable pricing. And that pricing is attached. And 6O is the Hurley's online auction service. Administration recommends approval to use Hurley online auction to sell unwanted and unused materials and products of the Shippensburg Area School District. I guess I have a question regarding, 6O regarding what we're paying for products, what we are selling, and can we either donate it or sell it in-house for the cost that it's being auctioned off at. I mean, $4 per Chromebook seems a bit.
So I'm not sure I understand the question.
So, I mean, a lot of the Hurley online auction items are in majority for our technology department.
Dr. Stevens, are you able to speak to why we're getting rid of these?
The Chromebooks, they have a life expectancy. At the end of that time, Google will no longer give updates, newer websites, especially a lot of the curriculum software won't run on them. So that's why we have to get rid of them, because the kids can no longer use them.
What is the life expectancy of a Chromebook?
They've been slowly increasing that. Originally it was 5 years, 7, and some of the, if you pay a lot more upfront, you get some of them for 9. Most of the ones we get are around the 7-year life expectancy.
So what is the price approximately we are paying per Chromebook per school year?
I think the last one's, the cases, I think it was around 400 or 350, something like that.
And at the last Hurley auction, they were selling for approximately like $4 a piece.
That's because they were no longer new enough to get any updates, so you could not use it for some of the banking websites, any of the things that use the newer software that the kids are using in the classroom. So that if a kid bought it, took it home, they could use all the software that we use. They could use it for other things, but most of those bring in less than $20 on eBay, that same one, so they're not worth much. And some of the ones we were selling did not work at all.
So on top of the $4 per piece and the few dollars we're getting for the whiteboards, I mean, would it behoove us to literally sell them? Can we sell them? We could sell them on our own or have an in-house, like, could the school district just donate them to some of our booster clubs to sell at yard sales versus just selling them and then paying an outside agency that's going to take a portion of that?
We'd take a board action to allow us to donate them. We would need somebody who would want them first. I mean, we can explore if there's a market for out-of-date computers, some of which don't work. But certainly, anything that doesn't sell, we could absolutely donate to someone or some group.
6P, we have the James Bird roof replacement bid. Administration recommends approval to advertise and accept bids to replace the roof at James Bird Elementary. And this has been something that has been on the feasibility study that we received probably 3 or 4 years ago, that was kind of in the yellow, which is now
in the red.
It's definitely red. So that's definitely priority.
Reminder to the board that we're still eligible for a facilities grant that we're waiting to hear back from. They always say in November. I believe that's optimistic, or at least my limited experience. We rarely hear back in the timeline that they say. So there's a chance that that number for the roof could be reduced by this grant.
6Q dishwasher bid award. At the July 8th, 2024 Planning Action Meeting, the Board of Directors approved the creation and advertisement of an invitation to bid to replace the dishwasher at the middle school and high school. The district received 2 bids. Below is a summary of the bids. So you can review those. 6R, additional speakers for the stadium. Administration through the Facilities Committee recommends the approval of a change order to allow addition of speakers around the press box to mitigate sound variations due to the placement of the larger speaker pole at the new stadium. 6S, high school, middle school parent loop bid acceptance. The base bid for the project, which includes basic music classroom space, FCS classroom spaces and STEM classroom, conference room, a rear entrance to the building, a cafe concession stand in the lobby, and modifications to the front entrance is a $4,599,938. And those alternates are also listed.
I only went to alternate number 3. There's those additional ones that Rochelle discussed in her update.
Which brings us to citizens' comments number 2. Is there anyone who wishes to comment?
Let me ask 6S. Let's just tell us what we're going to do next time.
So at the next time this will be on for action, Mr. Scott, and the board will need to decide on the base bid. And if the base bid goes through, then which alternates the board desires to move forward with.
I'd like to, before we get to the bidding or approval part, like the questions I asked about that loop, I have major concerns about the feasibility of what they produce working in this area. So I'll need that before I go any further on that part.
I think Rochelle can reiterate what was shared at the K&W. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
For citizens' comments, please identify yourself by name and borough, township. All comments to the board as a whole, and make sure they are in the form of a statement. Questions will be taken under advisement. Responses to questions will be offered after due deliberation and will be provided by the superintendent at the direction of the board within a few days of the board meeting. You'll be allowed 3 minutes for your comments. Comments relative to private student matters or personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate school authority outside of this meeting. The presiding officer reserves the right to interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Go ahead, Mr. Triplett.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Triplett, and I'm honored to stand here before you tonight as a proud resident of 1242 Newburgh Road, and more importantly, a passionate advocate for the future of girls fast pitch softball in our community. Together, my daughter, Tressa, a dedicated sophomore, we have devoted the last 4 years to this cause, hosting USA softball tournaments that have raised and donated over $40,000 to the local Shippensburg community. This past weekend, we had the privilege of hosting the largest USA softball event in Pennsylvania, the 2024 USA Softball Greyhound Eastern National Qualifier, held in memory of a remarkable man, Dustin Scheffler. Dustin wasn't just a supporter of softball, he was the heart and soul of our local travel softball community. He faithfully maintained the high school varsity stats, coached the Phoenix Warriors, and served as a senior vice commander for our local VFW. And dedicated 20 years of serving our country in the United States Navy. The daughter, a talented member of our high school softball team, carries his legacy with him every day. This tournament was more than just a competition. It sold out in 3 weeks, bringing together 44 teams from 4 states, a powerful testament to his strength and community, love, and remembrance. Our mission was clear: to honor Dustin's extraordinary life and ensure that his daughter's high school, travel, and future college softball expenses were paid for. What we accomplished together was nothing short of inspiring. With 4 age divisions, 3 venues, 106 games, and over 20 generous sponsors, and dedicated team of more than 30 volunteers from the Shippensburg High School Softball Booster Club, we raised an incredible $18,487 in Dustin's honor. The energy, the turnout, and the collective effort behind this event were a living tribute to the kind of community Dustin cherished and served so selflessly. Tonight, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the High School Softball Booster Club. The tireless dedication of former and current players, parents, board members, and current coaches who volunteered more than 470 hours was the driving force behind the successful event. Their commitment embodies a spirit of teamwork, service, and unity that makes our softball community so special. Our entire school, athletic department, and community can take immense pride in what we achieved together. In recognition of this overwhelming support, it is with great honor that I announce a donation of $4,100 to your high school softball booster club in memory of Dustin Scheffler. Thank you for the privilege of speaking tonight and for everything you do in support of our student athletes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett. Moving on to, oh, yeah, yes, please.
I didn't plan on talking tonight, but I just want to personally say it's a bittersweet night for me because I've worked personally with Christy. I've been here since December, and I haven't met someone that's as committed as her. On her vacation, her weekend, she's just always trying to do the right thing, always working hard. And it breaks my heart that she's leaving, but at the same time, you know, I wish her all the best. I wish you all the best. I don't know if I could say that to her, but I will miss you. And whoever's coming in, I just hope that they have really what's best for the school. And all I'll say is that, you know, we need people that always do what's right, no matter what. And sometimes doing what you're told doesn't always mean doing what's right. It's just knowing what's right and just doing that always. And she's always done that. So I want to just give this to her. And
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Makeda, for that. Board comments. Mr. Noggle.
Well, tonight is Christy's last night. I already said my piece a while back. You know what? She's done a phenomenal job. I'm gonna miss her in her role. So it's my honor to be able to work with her. Wish you well.
Dr. Lyman.
Yeah, so I would echo what Kirk said. I don't know. I don't, somehow Christy makes it so I can understand budgets. And there's so much potential for things to go wrong in that position, and things have gone very, very right while she's been here. I have to change the subject. So thank you very much, Christy. I do feel like the board, I would like to hear from someone who voted no on our getting a new business manager. The board needs to give some direction to the administration about what to do next, and I don't know that we have that. I don't know if that's the role of our president, Ms. Everly, to do that, but I don't know if we need a motion here, but I feel like superintendent and his team needs some kind of direction, and I think it's our job to give it. And so I would like to hear that from someone who voted against hiring.
The motion passed.
Motion.
You got it.
It was 5-4.
I thought we lost.
No, you got 5.
Oh, never mind then.
Gotta pay attention.
I know.
Are you sleeping?
It must have been.
Sorry. Earlier, I didn't realize what you were going after.
I'm so embarrassed. Thanks, Nathan. Sorry.
Dr. Goetz.
Well, I I just want to add my voice to the chorus. Thank yous to Christy Lentz. I started here almost 7 years ago, and it was a very different board and a very different dynamic, very different culture back then. But, just from that very first budgeting experience in 2018, just really grateful for your patience in answering my questions that have, I'm sure, been asked a bazillion times before and were asked a bazillion times since then, as every new board member needs to learn. And I really appreciate your patience in all of that, and wish you the best in your new role. The other thing that I wanted to ask about really was the schedule flip and sort of where we were in that process, and sort of already addressed that, and excited to hear that we are moving forward with that process, because I think that that's a really important step for our district, and so thank you.
Mr. Bard.
I already did, but I'm going to do it again. I just wish you the best of luck, Christy, and you're going to be missed. It's going to take some big shoes to fill what you do, but most definitely going to be missed. Just good luck.
Mr. Kressler?
First things first, I know this one because I keep seeing updates on their social media page, but the Nancy Grayson PTO is doing their Fun Run fundraiser. And then last year, they just destroyed their goal, and this year they already have raised, as of this afternoon, $17,641. And that's just pure straight cash donations. That's not like selling sandwiches and stuff. It's incredible what the community does and that school does. So I think they have like a week or so, 2 weeks, something left that they're still raising money, but it's awesome. Their goal was 16,000, so they hit that already. Our new student rep gave a bunch of updates on sports, so she stole my thunder a little bit, but that's okay. Football team is number 2 in the district in the power ratings. They're halfway through the season. Soccer is 9th. Boys soccer, girls soccer. Had a 6-0 win over Big Spring last week. Always good to see. Field hockey is 8-3. I think they beat East Penn 3-1 today. Volleyball lost to Greencastle today. They're back in action Wednesday. Our golf team, I touched on it a little bit 2 weeks ago. They absolutely shattered their best record in school history. I think this year they finished 34-8. They just missed out on their first division championship, and as mentioned earlier, there is a handful of our student athletes that are going to be competing at the Mid-Penn golf match in the next week or so. And then, Christy, thank you for everything. I know that my questions a lot of times are redundant, and they're things that you've already told me 3 or 4 times, but I have to say it again because that's the way my mind works, especially when it comes to mathematics. But best of luck for everything. When I first got on the board, I made a point to go around and meet with all the administrators, and there's people I didn't know. Turns out that I actually did kind of know you, even though I didn't know you. But it was all good. But I wish you the best of luck going forward.
Mr. Carey?
Already did well wishes, but I'll do them again. Thank you very much. You're patient, kind, and very helpful. Best of luck to you. Godspeed.
Mr. Scott?
I'm going to say, mouth dry. You'll be very much missed. I appreciate all you did by the time I've been on the board. You showed me a lot of things. Numbers and I have never been on a first name basis, so you've been able to help me through all that. I wish you the best of your way to go, but I would like to know, are we giving her anything for her service? A school board, as a school district? I feel the lady walked up here with flowers. What in the hell? What are we presenting? Nothing? I feel embarrassed, but wish you the best, better luck at where you're going.
Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Christy. She's exceptional at what she does, and big shoes to fill. I want to say congratulations to Mr. Barwin. He's now going to have an opportunity to prove himself. So best wishes to him. I'm sure he's listening in. That's everything.
So I would just like to say thank you to our food service after listening in on our presentation. They're kind of our unsung heroes for feeding hundreds of children. So I just want to thank them for their dedication to our students. Something else I'd just like to bring up is that I'd maybe like some info on our students' education prior to technology versus post technology, because we invest a whole lot in Chromebooks, Wi-Fi, smart boards, Chromebook holders, and we know that, you know, books are best, handwriting information and note-taking is best. So my professors tell me anyways. So I would like some of that data, along with, you know, I mean, the cost of curriculum versus, you know, technology versus old school books and paper. And lastly, Christy, I just want to say that I have always thought and been amazed by our flawless audits. And I look forward to hoping to have those in the future. Numbers make my eye twitch, but you've always made it a way to make them twitch a little less and to, you know, make them a little more understandable and to make decision making a whole lot easier. You've been able to kind of hone in to your expertise, and I've always appreciated that about you and the way that you even display your data. I know that's one way that kind of Big Spring, that's one of the things that they loved about you during your hiring process, because, you know, we talk. So I definitely wish you the best of luck, and I also wish Mr. Barwin lots of luck and well wishes to him as well. Information date savers: September 25th, we have a safety and security meeting. October 8th, community outreach committee, and October 9th, policy committee. October 10th, facilities committee, and October 11th, no school for teachers and students. And October 14th, there is no school for an Act 80 day. And that is everything.